Hello again, this is John Piper, reading from my book, The Way to Trade Better. Before I get on to the purpose of this video, we're going to talk about section 1, the 5 pillars of success, starting on page 5 of the book. I want to say a bit about evolution. An example of this is many people say, you make money trading, why do you write books? Why do you give seminars? To me, it's all about evolution. It's all about making the most of ourselves. I think this is a key part of life on this planet. You take Apple, they had the iPod. Why did they go on to make the iPhone? I mean, why? Well, for obvious reasons. It was an evolutionary process. They want to become more than they were. I think the same is true of everybody on the planet. We all want to make the most of ourselves, but many of us stop for one reason or another. Perhaps we start to try and make the most of ourselves, and something gets in the way and we give up, and then we perhaps lose hope and we don't try again. And that's the tragedy, I think, that we want to avoid. It's so important to keep on trying, to realize that as you try, you will fail, but you don't give up. You keep on trying, you learn from your failures, and you keep on going. The great granddaddy of this process is the reptilian fish-like thing that climbed out of the ooze millions of years ago and created life on human life on this planet, a great ancestor of ours who decided he wanted to evolve, and that's what we must all do. Looking at the state of the human race on the planet Earth, I think the next big evolutionary step for us is unity of religion. If you take the Christian religion, which is what I was brought up in, it seems to believe in one God, all powerful, all pervading, all knowledgeable, etc. And if you look at the Muslim religion, they have the same God. It's all powerful, all pervading, all knowledgeable. It's quite obvious, if you think about it, that there can only be one of these gods. I mean, how many all-knowledgeable, all-pervading beings are there liable to be? Well, one is the answer. So it seems to me pretty obvious that the Christians and the Muslims actually both worship the same God. They just can't admit it for political reasons. And the religion is a bureaucracy, a political bureaucracy, and that simple belief that it's all one God could solve so many of humanity's difficulties. But of course, getting people to see that after years of indoctrination and years of belief in this single entity that is somehow different, but is in fact exactly the same in every meaningful way, is I think the next evolutionary phase for us. But how long that might take to achieve remains to be seen. Enough about evolution, and let's get down to the section 1, the 5 pillars of success. I said in the introduction that making your trading into a successful business is a 5-step process. You may also call these the 5 pillars of your business, and here they are: focus, right style, right trading, right size, and making these winning habits, which is known as transformation. Now let's look at these 5 pillars in more detail. And in this particular section, we look at focus. Focus is one of the strongest weapons in your arsenal as a trader. It determines how you look at the market. More importantly, it determines what you ignore. Given the massive amount of information any market produces, you need to ignore most of it. For some, focus may mean reading the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal. For others, it means weekly meetings with brokers or advisors. For yet others, it may mean looking at charts, or maybe you have bought a short-term trading system and your focus is on its rules. You'll understand immediately that each of these different viewpoints will give you a very different picture. The person who reads what a commentator has written in the Wall Street Journal will have a very different perspective from somebody who is following a short-term trading system. And here are a few of the areas that will vary. Time frame. This can vary from a few minutes to a few months or years even. Market. There are stock markets, futures markets, commodity markets, not to mention spread betting and binary betting markets, and each offers a trader a variety of risk and opportunity. Objective. Some want long-term gains and dividends, others want short-term trading profits, with a vast array between those two extremes. But even if you get a match on these three, there's still enormous variance in how any one trader may decide to extract profit from the market. For example, one of my trading colleagues looks to profit from market gaps, whereas I prefer trading spikes. Others use Japanese candlesticks or moving averages, and the list is virtually endless. Focus determines exactly what you look at, and later in this book I give you an example of a trading system I use called Zeitgap, also known as Krautgap and A-B, which is based on the German DAX index. To trade this system, your focus will be entirely on the following factors. 1, the prior close on the DAX, and 2, the early action as the DAX opens, and that's it. I'm using Zeitgap merely to illustrate a number of important points. At the same time, I'm happy to give you the basic idea behind this system, which I use daily to extract cash from the markets. Not that it wins every day, of course. That never happens. You'll also have to have regard to money management, but the trading system takes care of risk control, so your focus is very restricted, and thus the whole business of trading becomes much simpler. Compare these two factors with those a value investor must wish to consider before buying any shares. 1, company accounts, plus maybe an expert to help decipher them. 2, overall economic situation. 3, earnings trend. 4, true asset value. 5, breakdown value. I could continue to add to this list fairly indefinitely, but I think I've made the point. The more you define your focus, the less you have to worry about. Becoming an expert in a very limited range of items is much easier than becoming an expert in a much larger range of areas. To take Zeitgap as an example, it takes very little time to become an expert in the basic rules and the operation of the system. There are then a number of additional, more advanced techniques you can add as you progress. Each of these techniques adds to the bottom line, and each technique takes its own time to learn. None are very complex. A professional trader will tend to extend this process and continually evolve, testing out new techniques as they go forwards. To conclude this point, I've been active in markets for over 26 years now, and I've met and worked with many professional traders. In every case, they have a clear focus. They've made it their business to become expert in that focus. In the next video, we'll look at right style, which is on page 9 of the book. And I think I'll just expand slightly on the bit about professional traders. It is very important to actually make the system your own, to personalize it, as in my book, my first book, The Way to Trade, Develop Your Successful Trading Personality. It's definitely, without a doubt, every trader I've met who is successful have done it their own way. And I can't stress that enough. It's one thing to buy a system, take a service, and to trade using that. But if you want to actually be a full-time professional trader, you need to do the research, you need to modify the systems, and become an expert yourself. Without doing the research, you never become the expert. So if you want that pot of gold, then you need to treat this as a business. Any businessman will do the research. They'll research what they're involved with, and they'll make sure they become an expert and go on to make that a true source of financial freedom. And on that note, I'll say thank you for listening. I hope you found it interesting and useful. I'll be back with the next report fairly shortly. Thank you.